This floor of Parliament, I raised an issue to the good police minister a couple of months ago about a man who continues to violently arrest women who are running the Wabag Market. It's taken a year now and there's no arrest. Now, all that sweet la tok tok yumi kam tok tok rialo, soy mo mano so yumi content long all, but when you don't arrest people, nothing will be done on the streets. And I can see some of you smiling, because some of you have another country to go and retire. Some of us have only this one country called Papua New Guinea, and this country is being torn down. I'd also like to take this opportunity to say a few words in regard to this very, very important issue. But before I do so, let me acknowledge people from Laigam who are here in the chambers, and of course teachers and students from the University of PNG. Deputy Speaker, gender-based violence is a very, very big issue. Coming from the medical fraternity, I've seen a lot of cases, heinous examples of crimes that have been committed against the female populace. In cases of social accusation-based violence, we see some of the most, inhuman treatment of women. But Mr. Speaker, unlike the rest, I think we live in a country called Papua New Guinea, and gender-based violence and social accusation-based violence is a common occurrence, and trying to delve further into this issue will be like preaching to the converted. So I'll just go straight to what we need to do. Mr. Speaker, there's so many reports on gender-based violence. There's so many papers on gender-based violence. Actually, I wrote a submission to the Australian government to fund the Wabag Market to address women empowerment. Because there's only two ways you can actually do away with this evil that we are facing in this country. Number one, you have to economically empower the women populace. That's the only way. By empowering them, you give them that ability to make decisions and to be independent, not to be subservient to the male populace. And all of this actually based on data. So I wrote a submission to the Australian government and they funded the Wabag Market. Now, that will take me to the second point. The second point comes from my old maxim that says, words or belief without action is dead. On this floor of Parliament, I raised an issue to the good police minister a couple of months ago about a man who continues to violently arrest women who are running the Wabag Market. It's taken a year now and there's no arrest. Now let me just mention the name of a person called David, Nema. This guy is an economist who wrote about behavioral economics. And he did a study and he said, when you arrest people, and he got a Nobel Prize for it, by the way, when you arrest people, there is deterrence. Now, all that sweet la tok tok yumi kam tok tok rialo, soy mo mano so yumi content long all, but when you don't arrest people, nothing will be done on the streets. There's no deterrence. I'm waiting for a year, and the police haven't arrested this culprit. I laid the complaint myself. Now, listening to you all preach about your concerns about the female populace, and yet you don't have the courage and strength to do your work, to ask the police to do one single arrest. Women will be protected when the rule of law starts to, established in this country and enforced. When there is no rule of law, women will still be abused. You can make all the fancy statements, you can come up with all the good data, everything, but there's no deterrence. Now, about something, people are on social media all the time and you see women being tortured, you see men flaunting with all, the atrocities they are committing, and yet we have not arrested a single soul. Now, instead of coming here and making all the statements, I think we should start doing our job. We should get the police to start doing arrests. because this country will not be safe anymore. And I can see some of you smiling, because some of you have another country to go and, retire in. Some of us have only this one country called Papua New Guinea. And this country is being torn down. So 2 plus something, big plus something, 2 things. And this, I wrote a submission on that, so I did extensive research into women empowerment. I realized the only way you can protect women is when you economically empower them, number 1. And number 2, when the justice system works. When police are doing arrests, there'll be deterrence. So I'm asking the government, which we are all part of, enough of talking, let's go down to the streets and let's start arresting people who are committing these crimes. Your flowery statements on the floor of this parliament won't solve a single, law and order problem. You can cry, you can dance, and you can do anything, you can pray, you can make this country a Christian country. But when you don't enforce the law, you won't have a country. It's coming to the state now. People will start to take law into their own hands and we will lose this country. So, I'm trying to empower the women of Wabag, giving them funding, built a market and give it to them to run that market. But there are men who are there arresting them, trying to take over the market, and yet the government can't do a single thing. Can't arrest these culprits. I've raised this issue on this floor since last year. Now, you're not making much of something, not going to come the president in the report. I even brought police from another province to do the arrest, but they're being compromised. I've raised it before the police commissioner. They're still being compromised. You make a man look kusaina, you make him can't do the statement here. It will never work. We have to start doing our job, start arresting people on the streets. That's how, when we protect our lives go on very quickly. Now they don't feel safe to walk on the streets, I'm telling you. Maybe you people live in a bubble, far removed from the reality on the ground, so you are not realizing it, but our women are not safe anymore. To walk on the streets, to even go to the shops. So let's start enforcing the rule of law and let's establish the rule of law. Then you will have a country. Otherwise, you are crying for foreign direct investment. It won't come to this country because there's no rule of law. There's no guarantee that contracts will be enforced. There's no guarantee that businesses will be safe in this country.
Absolutely correct.
So let's address the rule of law. That's the thing the country needs to address now. Making flowery statements won't solve anything. Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
The Honourable Governor for Oro.